Let's talk to Mr. Omar. He's a non-residential fellow at the Atlantic Council. Mr. Omar, thank you for joining us at this critical juncture. What do you make of this escalatory process in Gulf states or in West Asia?
Yeah, I mean, this appears to be a controlled escalation. So this is very comparable with what happened in 2020 when the United States of America killed Qasem Soleimani, the head of the Iranian Republican Guard forces. But this is controlled escalation. So the Iranians, before the attack, informed the Qatari and the American side of the intent of the attack. And it appears that the Americans had already withdrawn most of the facilities, equipment, and also military personnel. So there was no real harm, no real destruction. Only one missile landed in Qatar on a plain area without any material or human damage. So it appears that Iran told basically that they have to give a response to the American attack against the Fordo nuclear facility, and they informed beforehand, just like the United States of America had informed the Iranian side before bombing the Fordo nuclear facility. So in reality, even though many are now afraid, this is more like a controlled escalation, which may pave the way for de-escalation in the region, as both sides have visibly agreed not to escalate this further. Because if Iran wanted to harm the United States of America, really, they would not attack the El Udeid air base in Qatar. They would attack the American base in the United Arab Emirates, and they would attack the American bases in Iraq, where Iran has quite a lot of leverage against the United States of America.
Mr. Omar, the United States did warn Iran against any retaliation. They actually said that it's time for us to speak and it's time for us to give peace a chance. Do you actually think there's any likelihood that Iran will sit at the negotiating table and talk to America?
I mean, this is quite difficult to say at this point of time, because the United States of America has targeted Iran while there was a 2 weeks time from the Trump administration to negotiate, and the Israelis attacked Iran while the Iranians were basically at the negotiation table. So the Iranians have lost quite a lot of trust, and I think we are not yet at the point where we will discuss the return back to negotiation table, but there appears to be more and more readiness from the Israeli and the American side to re-engage in negotiations. Because what I can see is that the Israelis basically bombed everything in Iran that they wanted to bomb. And the only thing that they could not bomb was the Fordo nuclear facility, and this was bombed by the Americans. So there is a chance to go back to the negotiation table, but for that to happen, the Iranians would have to accept the current status quo, which is against them. So it is quite possible that the Iranians may try to de-escalate with the United States of America, but continue the escalation with the Israelis to reshape the balance of power and improve the Iranian position a bit more over the coming next days with some ballistic missile attacks against Israel before going back to the negotiation table. Because one of the key points in which Iran has a stake is, and has a leverage, is the arsenal of ballistic missiles. Right. The Israelis have to use very much air defense ammunitions and missile systems. And over time, if this turns into a marathon run, the Iranian side has a longer breath here. And this would weaken the Israeli air defense.
Mr. Omar, what do you think about Iran's Operation Bashar al-Fateh? They're calling it Bashar al-Fateh. This is a retaliation operation. In other words, it's called Annunciation of Victory. What do you make of this new operation by Iran?
I mean, this operation is more intended to the domestic Iranian audience than it is intended for the United States of America and Israel and the region. And this is more like an attempt by the Iranian regime to maintain posture domestically and to show their own population and their own support base that they have retaliated and protected the Iranian sovereignty and Iranian might. But that being said, this attack also is something underlying something, and this is that the Gulf states are quite vulnerable against Iranian attacks. So if the Iranians would not have warned beforehand, and if they would have conducted a much larger attack, which they can, with mid and short range missiles, they don't even need ballistic missiles, the Gulf states are quite vulnerable. So this will change the situation in the region, because up until today, the Arab states were more afraid of the Israeli position and the Israeli operational structure and how the Israelis operate in the region. And they perceive the Israeli attempts to establish a hegemony as a threat. But as of today, the Arab states have been reminded by Iran that Iran is also a genuine and serious threat for the Arab states to consider. So they have rebalanced from a relatively pro-Iranian position to a more position that's in between Israel and Iran.
Mr. Omar, stay with me. I will come back to you in a short while. But according to the New York Times, they say that Iran informed the Qatari government in advance of the missile strikes on the U.S. airbase in Qatar. Advance warning was given to minimize casualties. I still do believe we have our correspondent, Susan Teherani, on the phone. We'll just quickly update our viewers on what is currently happening in Qatar. And the latest is that the New York Times is reporting that Iran informed the Qatari government in advance of the missile strikes on the U.S. airbase in Qatar. Advanced warning was given to minimize any casualties. And this is the latest that we are getting in our newsroom at this hour. Reports say Iran did inform the Qatari government in advance of the missile strikes on the U.S. airbase in Qatar. Advance warning was reportedly given to minimize casualties. This is in line with Qatar's statement, which says the base had been evacuated earlier following established security and precautionary measures given the tensions in the region. Qatar states that all necessary steps were taken to ensure the safety of personnel at the base, including Qatari armed forces, members, friendly forces, and others. We confirm that no injuries or human casualties resulted from the attack. Susan Teherani, if you're still with me, do you have any other information as to the meeting between Trump and his defense secretary and his defense or military chiefs